Hi guys, I'm Lulu, also known as Curly Q Lou, and today I will be showing you a few different ways that I like to diffuse my curly hair. This isn't comprehensive, so I don't go through all the ways in which a person could diffuse their hair, but I'll walk through the ones that I like and why. Before I get started, I'll show you the diffuser that I'm using. So this is the Extava Black Orchid diffuser. If you've seen some of my other videos, you might have seen me using this before, but it's really big. It's really deep. The bowl is really deep, which I like because it doesn't squish my curls. And also the airflow comes out of these little protruding fingers, so it really helps to get airflow into my roots when I'm diffusing. So that's the diffuser that I'm using. I have it attached to a Remington Prolux. It was really hard for me to find a hairdryer in Germany to fit my diffuser. As you can see, it's not really fitting. I am actually using a plumbing fitting to attach the diffuser to the hairdryer. So not super ideal, but this is what I could do when I'm in Germany. So that's what I'm using, and if you follow my Instagram, you may have noticed that I like to pixie diffuse. If you don't know what that is, don't worry, I will walk you through that. But once I started to investigate different ways of diffusing, I started to notice some benefits of some other ways, so I started to incorporate some of those ways into my routine. So the first diffusing method that I will walk through is the pixie diffusing method. I did not invent this. I found it early on in my journey, and I can't remember who I first saw it from because I've been doing this for a couple of years now. But anyways, the pixie diffusing method is my favorite. Basically, it helps you to reduce the amount of frizz that you're causing because you're turning off the hairdryer every time you move it away from your head so that you're not blowing air up into your hair, which can kind of start to blow individual hairs in different directions. So to do this, I will take my hair, place it into the diffuser, bring it towards my head, and turn on the dryer. Now, when I'm doing this, I like to bring the diffuser all the way to my scalp because then these little fingers can really dry my roots. But I've seen other people scoop up their hair and kind of just move it up a little bit halfway to kind of let lets the air go in a little bit more places, so it might be able to dry your hair a little bit better. So it's just something to try. So another way that you can diffuse your hair is to hover. So you're really just taking the hair dryer and not necessarily touching the hair, but kind of holding the diffuser away from the hair and drying it like this. So this is a really gentle way to diffuse curly hair because you're not making contact with the hair and you're really allowing those curl clumps to stay in contact. Also with this method, I prefer to use the air setting on the lowest flow because I feel like the more air that's coming out, the more that I could be almost putting too much air on my curl clumps and potentially separating them. This really just depends on your hair, and it depends on the hold of the products that you're using, so you can experiment with that as well. But I like to do this at the beginning of my diffusing so that I can kind of start to dry those curl clumps without really touching them a lot at first. One of the downsides to me in using the hover diffusing method is that it doesn't help me to get more bounce. So when I'm doing the pixie diffusing method, I'm really accordioning, if that's a word, my hair into the diffuser, which helps those curls to really pop up, and it helps them to get more bounce. When I'm hovering, the weight of the water and products in my hair can kind of start to pull the curl out, and so this kind of elongates my curls. This is a similar effect to what I experience when I air dry. So that's why I don't typically hover the entire time that I'm diffusing, but it's something that you can play around with to see how much of that you like. There's definitely a trade-off with those methods. Another way to diffuse is just to turn on the hair dryer and have it on continuously and just continuously diffuse. So similar to the pixie method, you're scooping up the curls and bringing them towards your head, but you're not turning off the dryer in between sections. So that's something that you can do if you really just don't want to go through the effort of turning on and off your hair dryer. And I've noticed that for some people who do that method, they get a lot more volume. So as you're determining whether you prefer more definition or more volume, that's something that you can try to see if that helps your results. The last time that I had my hair cut, my stylist sat me underneath of one of those hooded dryers for a few minutes, and that was to really start to dry the roots before we moved to diffusing the ends. And this got me thinking. I had seen others do this, but I hadn't tried this myself, but I was thinking about just putting the diffuser into the roots and drying it like that a little bit at the very beginning of my routine, kind of have the similar effect to what my stylist had done. So I just put the diffuser into my roots and turn it on. Turn it off and bring it away. So kind of similar to the pixie diffuse method. So this is really just to start to get more airflow into the roots before I pile my curls up and kind of block them from getting air from the diffuser. So I've seen some others do this. You can kind of play around to see how much of that you like to do in your routine. But for me, I like to start out with that hover and bring it into the roots to just dry that a little bit more before I start to dry the lengths of my hair. I found that this kind of helps me to speed up my drying, and it kind of evens out how my hair dries, because I found that with the pixie method, especially when my hair was longer, I would pile my curls into the diffuser and they would take up all the room, and by the time I got to the roots, there was so much hair in there blocking the airflow that I couldn't really dry my roots. So the ends of my hair would get dry faster than the roots. And actually the roots, that's where I have the lowest porosity, and it's harder for me to get that hair dry. So this is something that I like to do to kind of even out how my hair dries. One more tip for diffusing is actually wiggling the diffuser when it's at your roots. So I will, when I'm pixie diffusing, I'll put the hair in, bring it towards my scalp, and wiggle it. So that can be a lot of work if you wiggle the whole time. I prefer to start wiggling just a little bit when my hair is getting close to dry, because I feel like that starts to kind of break up the hair in my roots, and it helps to give me a little bit more volume. When diffusing, I will alternate between the low heat setting and the cool setting, because I don't want to have too much heat, but the heat does help to add in a little bit of bounce, and it also really speeds up my drying time, but I'm trying to stay away from heat as much as possible to minimize damage to my hair. So I like to alternate between those two temperatures to kind of find a happy medium there. I also vary the time that I spend on each section. So as I'm drying, I will, at the beginning of my routine, hold my hair in the diffuser and have the air on and hold it there for about 30 seconds to a minute, sometimes even 2 minutes. It really just depends on how saturated my hair is and how patient I am. But as my hair starts to get drier, I decrease the amount of time per section and start to move a little bit faster as I rotate through sections around my head. I also like to flip my hair like this from side to side as I'm diffusing, because I feel like the movement of my roots from side to side helps the roots to dry up and away from my head. And when I don't flip my hair, my hair starts to kind of lay heavy and push down on my roots, so it gives me less volume. So I found that flipping my hair from side to side really helps to provide more volume in my results. So I'm going to finish diffusing my hair and then I'll show you the results.